we started the amount of inclusion and diversity, that we're seeing today began with movies like La Bamba.
Let's start at the beginning of your La Bamba journey. Where were you in your life, in your career, when this opportunity to portray Ritchie Valens came your way?
I got the call to get flown to Los Angeles and do the screen test. The rest is history.
So that literally marked your arrival in Hollywood then?
100%. The expectation was, okay, here's an unknown kid from Dallas, Texas, playing an obscure Mexican-American rock and roll star on a negative pickup, basically an independent film made for $6 million. It was not destined for greatness. People didn't go, well, that's going to be a hit. They didn't know. So we saw the movie and all of a sudden it was like, wow, we actually might be onto something here. This could go through the roof. And it did.
There were not many stories being told in the 80s, frankly, that were not centered around white folks. Here you had a story of a Chicano rock and roll musician, starring an actor of multicultural descent, directed by a Mexican-American man with a predominantly LatinX cast. Did that aspect feel very rare or singular at the time?
It was mind-blowing. Once again, it was also one of those reasons why we were managing our expectations. This is a primarily ethnic cast. This sort of thing hadn't really been done to this extent at this point in time. I mean, it was a pioneer, it broke down barriers, it opened up doors. I can look back on that now and with all humility say, yeah, we started the amount of inclusion and diversity, that we're seeing today began with movies like La Bamba, and it's taken me a while to embrace that and go and own it and go, no, you know what? No. We changed some minds because Hollywood, sees green. It's still a very tough proposition to mount all ethnic cast. We proved that a Latinx-centric story, could be a box office success. And
for you personally, you once talked about how you didn't want to limit the types of roles you'd go out for, how you'd even go out for a role if it was written for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. Did you find Hollywood resistant to that at points, especially coming up in the 80s and 90s? Were there roles that you think you should have gotten but didn't over the years because you were pigeonholed, ethnically or otherwise?
Yeah, it's it's still happening. It's not as if this is a phenomenon that was left in the 80s and 90s. It's still happening today. There's more opportunity. There's more accessibility. There is broader thinking in the ivory towers, and so they're creating more content that is specifically, for actors of color, directors of color, writers of color. So we've come a long way in that respect. There's still a long way to go. But I was very fortunate because I look back on my career, and I mean, just the first 3 roles I did in Hollywood, were very specific and very and done for a reason, and that is I didn't want to repeat myself. And so you've got La Bamba, Stand and Deliver, and Young Guns. You cannot compare any one of those characters to each other. The fact that I was able to cross over and to cross over in some bigger films, But yeah, there were those films that came along where it's like, oh, no, we're not going to see him. He's not right for this. And the pay scale was a lot different. I've had that argument, for years. I literally had a producer say to me one time, you want parity with so-and-so? It's like, yeah, our resumes are pretty equal. And, and if you really want to compare box office, mine's better, But no, the Caucasian actor was going to get paid more.
Is there one that got away for you that you still think about that stung?
There was a role that the writer wrote for me, and Robert De Niro produced it, and Bobby was going to play the other role, the 2 leads, and the studio had an overall deal with another actor, so they went with him. And I didn't get to play the role, and therefore, but then Bobby dropped out of the picture and another actor took his place. I think one of the biggest regrets was right after Stand and Deliver, I was attached to 3 or 4 more independent films. And then like the 4th one in the door with an unknown director came through. Being from Texas, the title kind of put me off, and I went, and I asked my agent, I said, what do you think of this? And he said, it's scale, it's an unknown director. Don't even read it. Big lesson, I read everything now because that was Drugstore Cowboy. and it's a brilliant film. And Gus Van Sant has become one of our cornerstone directors. And I stupidly did not read it, and I had it first. Now, mind you, Matt was fantastic in it. I would have been different, but that was, it taught me a very hard lesson.
Emilio Estevez said recently that Young Guns 3 is definitely, he used the word definitely in the works.
Oh, he did?
Yes. Have you been privy to this?
I am privy to it. I am not inside the loop. Emil contacted me a ways back and said, we're going to do this, are you interested? And I said, yeah. Showed me a first draft of a script. What I think is really wonderful is that John Fusco, the original creator of both Guns 1 and 2, is doing a polish on the script right now. It's in a good place, but as far as I know, there's not a green light yet.
So it sounds like there is a possibility Chavez could be back.
You're telling me there's a chance.